So an example of the Speaker's Corner directions, because I said one of the things we really try and do is have very, very specific organizers, as well as exemplars. We just finished this project last week, and you can see it has on it the dates, and in the drafting directions for the introduction, it tells students exactly what we want to put in them. And I said over and over again, with kids that can write, they'd say, well, this sounds a little bit awkward. Well, yeah, because you're a writer, so write. But kids that aren't writers, who haven't mastered those skill sets, they never didn't know what to do. Because it said, then in the next line you should write this, and in the next line you should write this. And there is, it doesn't matter, this is the rest of the essay. There's a sample. The hardest thing for kids to do is the introduction and conclusion. There were models right there on the paper for them. So there was no excuse to be like, I don't know what to do. It's right there. Go ahead. We do use a lot of technology that has been very helpful for teachers as well as students. When we started these two programs, or the writing across curriculum, we had some existing technology in place. Go ahead. We have 2 computer labs that are hooked onto the library. One is actually in the library, one is adjacent to the library. The library had a website. All of our students, right now we have Google Apps for Education. Prior to this, we actually had all students create Gmail accounts. We sent letters to their parents saying, it's free, they need it for school, use it. But now we have Google Apps for Education, which is really, really helpful. And we did have smartboards in all the classes that were involved. Since we started, we have made the conscious decision to purchase some technology. Some of it was at the district level and had nothing to do with our building, and some of it had to do with our building. Go ahead. Our district purchased mobile carts, so we have some carts on, computer carts. That enables us to have every student in the school doing this on a daily basis. The first website program that we bought was Noodle Tools. Noodle Tools is very inexpensive. I think we pay $280 for the year. The high school pays a little bit more than that, and if your high school and middle school both pay for Noodle Tools, the rest of the district gets it for free. If you're not familiar with Noodle Tools, I think it's a terrific program, and basically it takes the research on note cards that I did when I was a kid and puts it all on a website. It also does the same kind of things that Easy Bibs or some of those works cited programs do. And then last year we purchased Turnitin.com, which you've probably heard of. It's an originality check program. It also does grammar check. That's a very expensive program, but it has revolutionized the way our kids revise. If you know, with writing, the hardest thing to get kids to do is to revise. They just don't know where to start. At the very basic level, what Turnitin.com will do is it'll highlight anything that is too similar to anything out on the internet. And if all the kids do is look at what they didn't really paraphrase, which is highlighted for them, and paraphrase, they wind up doing so much more revision than they had done prior to that in my experience. It also has really cool peer revising tools on it. Like I said, it's an expensive program. I took the money out of a library budget. It's $2,000 worth of books I don't get to buy every year, but it has really been worth it, I think. Go ahead. Program's results. Well, we're not there yet. Not all of our kids write the way we want them to, but there's definitely been positive outcomes. Go ahead. Since we've been doing this program, a lot of teachers have been very concerned. How can we take 20 days out of our curriculum to do research when we have to be ready for the PSSA? If you've been in any of other of our programs, you can see that our reading trajectory has been on a constant positive. And last year in the 8th grade, 97% of our white kids were proficient, 96% of all of our kids were proficient, 90% of our black kids were proficient, and 80% of our IEP kids were proficient. So even though we are not actually teaching to the test on those days, it really has made a positive impact on our PSSA. The Cornerstone projects have driven curriculum, like I said before. If we know that you're going to have to do this, you have to start it not just the day before, but a couple weeks before in earlier grades. Go ahead. Common language and common expectations. Every kid in the 8th grade knows that on May 7th, the research report is due. It doesn't matter if that is our lowest functioning learning support student or our highest functioning gifted student. Everybody has the expectation that they're not going to graduate, they're not going to Dorney Park unless they get this finished in a way that's acceptable to us. Our students have definitely reported that they feel better prepared for high school. Because the program has been so successful, the director of reading for the entire district has come over a number of times and talked to me about how we can expand this program in the elementary school, even though everyone is so focused on PSSA. that's something that's really important. The best thing I didn't put up there, it actually happened yesterday, actually. Because like I said, the program just finished yesterday, our second speaker's corner. There was a student I was sitting with. He is one of our squirreliest kids in the building for sure. He is a learning support student. He's in support of reading, and he just is, he's a little bit of a pain. A likable pain, but a pain. And you always have to check to make sure he's doing something because he's in everywhere. And I was sitting next to him, and I said, okay, Zion, is your paper done? Is your paper done? He's like, oh, I got this, Mrs. Cooper. And I said, let me see. So he showed it to me. Now, his writing is not phenomenal, but it clearly looked like a 5-paragraph essay. This is not a kid that's invested in school. He's invested in people, but he's not invested in school. And I said, gosh, that looks awesome. That looks so good. Let's turn it into turnitin.com. And if you've used the program, like the first time you turn it in, you get feedback almost immediately, but when you resubmit it, there's lag time. They say it could be up to 24 hours, but usually it's about an hour. And he kept sitting there next to me going, when am I going to get to see my grammar? When am I going to get to see my grammar? And I'm like, I can't believe Zion's wondering when he's going to get to see his grammar. But because of the groupthink and because he was so proud that he wrote something that looked like an essay, he wanted to see his grammar. I'm not sure that he would have understood any of the grammar feedback, but we'll worry about that. That'll be the next thing we worry about. And then later in the day, he wound up coming back to the library, which he sometimes does. He was supposed to be in a class. What are you doing here? Is there any way I can get a copy of that essay? Why? I want to show my reading teacher. That was all I needed to hear. That was it. In addition to all the really great writing that kids were learning to do, one of our biggest problem kids felt like he accomplished something in writing, which from my perspective is one of the hardest things we teach kids. So, like I said before, we're not anywhere near where I want us to be, but I am happy on the path that we're on. Thank you very much for your attention, and that's all I have.